What does it mean to be truly free, not just in the external world, but deep within ourselves? Sovereignty in its highest form is not about control over others, but about mastering our inner world. It's about becoming the supreme authority over our thoughts, emotions, and actions so we can move through life with clarity, authenticity, and deep alignment with our true nature in a world that constantly pulls us in different directions through societal conditioning, inherited beliefs, and the ever-evolving landscape of technology. It's easy to feel disconnected from our inner compass. We react instead of responding, seek certainty in an uncertain world, and forget that true power, not from external validation, but from within. So what if you could reclaim your inner throne? What if you could govern your mind and master your emotions and align your actions with your deepest values? What if your thoughts were no longer your enemy, but your greatest ally? This is the path of inner sovereignty, the art of becoming the supreme authority over your life. It's a journey of profound self-awareness, unwavering personal responsibility, and fearless authenticity. It's the process of transforming from a passive participant in life to a conscious creator of your destiny. In this exploration, we will uncover some of the psychological mechanisms that determine sovereignty, the philosophical foundations of self-mastery, and some of the practical methods to break free from unconscious programming. Today, I am truly honored to explore this profound topic with Christine Samuel, a true pioneer in the art of embracing life's uncertainties with grace and courage. Christine's journey is one of deep transformation, leaving behind a 20-year career in user experience design to step into the unknown, seeking a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be human. As a coach, facilitator, author, and speaker, Christine's work is mindfulness, relational intelligence, and human-centered design, offering a holistic approach to navigating discomfort, fear, and contradiction. Her book, The Heart Space, Living with Grace and Ease in an Era of Uncertainty, invites us to embrace the unknown with openness as distinct from resistance. Christine, your insights into listening deeply, cultivating wisdom, and navigating the complexities of being human will be incredibly valuable to this discussion. I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Peter, for having me for the second time. It's such an honor to have this conversation with you.
Do you see the concept of sovereignty fitting into the modern world where all these external forces, from technology to societal expectations, can cloud our sense of inner authority?
I think this is a time where we are in the intersection where a lot of people are asking, what is this about? Like when we are faced uncertainty, when we are faced with the crumbling of the systems of this cured structure that surround us, that make life predictable, that's the time we ask for ourselves how we want to show up in this world. For me, this is an exciting time because for a long time, we have given power to things outside of us. Everything that we are trained and educate is about fitting with the system, fitting with the life that we need to be in the societies, fitting where we can make money, pay bills, and fitting in a one-way model of success. This is the time where we come back to ourselves. We cannot rely on the external. And this is an opportunity to ask ourselves, what is my power in this? What is my choice? What is my decision? I hope a lot of people more awake on that. It's a scary place when everything crumbles around us and when we rely so much on our surrounding to feel safe. Now it's time for us to return to ask ourselves, what is in my control? And I think for me, there's a lot of possibility and opportunity to be in that space.
Many people feel like life can be a personal prison. People are walking around with these invisible chains like self-doubt and fear and I'm not enough and limiting beliefs. All those keep one trapped in their minds. And most don't realize how much we're holding ourselves back. And I speak from personal experience because when one is constantly seeking external validation and happiness from the outside world, when the real power has already been inside of us. If you think about it, how often does one beat themselves up? How often does one beat themselves up convincing themselves they're not good enough? Or how many times has one let societal expectations of their internalized limitations dictate their choices? And I see so many begging for scraps of love and recognition from others that they've forgotten that they're the masters of their destiny. For me, the truth is radical and simple. We have complete authority over our inner world. Our life isn't something that's happening to us. It's happening because you create it moment by moment, choice by choice. And those barriers, they're mostly in your mind and they can be dismantled. I was talking to a client the other day and I said, imagine waking up and seeing your life with completely fresh eyes, not as a burden or a series of obligations, but as an incredible canvas of opportunity and possibility. It isn't just a nice thought. It's a genuine awakening. It's about reconnecting to your true self. That boundless inner core that's always been there, it's waiting to be recognized by you. So when we start making those decisions from a place of inner freedom, everything changes. Suddenly, we're not scrounging around for happiness in other people or external achievements. We're generating it from within. One's relationships, work, everyday experiences, they can all be transformed when one realizes they're not a victim, but they're a conscious creator of their experience.
I like what you're saying, and I want to give an attempt to say it in similar different perspective, which I think you talking about inner freedom, where we can make decisions, where we can own our validation instead of from the outside, to make choice, to not thinking what other people think of us, to not judge us. And the first step of that freedom is to love ourselves. I think that's what missing, even with conversation with clients, with facilitating deep listening circles, all that we try to achieve out there, the longing, the wanting of belonging and becoming, I think is a call to be loved. It's a call for acceptance, acknowledgement, and understanding. And that freedom, at least for me, in my experience, facing my own fear and my own judgment, like self-judgment and self-critics, is how can I return to love? How can I become that person, parent, or boss that I'm looking for to give it to me? First, how we can love ourselves, be open and not judging ourselves. That's allowing that inner child in us that is afraid, that needs protection, to be playful, to be open, to be free, to be creative, because it knows it's safe. Without that inner safety, it's really hard to gain our freedom and sovereignty because we don't know how to keep sovereign, which is to keep it safe within our territory. The only way to do that is to learn to love ourselves, because from that love comes a freedom to give and to receive. For me, the hardest part is to learn to receive. Most people, especially people who are living their purpose, they want to give something, they want to create an impact, like meaningful impact in this world. But I felt the most important thing, can we learn to receive? Because when we learn to receive, we learn to give more. To receive without resistance is an act of love because we know we deserve to be loved. Most people felt we don't deserve to be loved. Can we be open and learn that? Because I think all the problem in the world and all the problem within ourselves would start disappearing, or would feels like it's not a problem at all when we give that love to ourselves.
Beautiful. That's huge. That's where we can start to get an education in self-awareness, because This isn't really about changing your circumstances. It's about changing how we perceive and interact with those circumstances. It's the same life, but it's a completely different perspective, as you're alluding to. And I think that shift, when you're talking about receiving and looking at self love, that is your birthright. The questions that come up in me is number one, where have you given your power away? Number two, what unconscious beliefs are shaping your choices, whether they're external or internal? And what would it mean for you to reclaim your inner sovereignty?
Isn't it interesting? I learned from my own experience. Like you said, self-awareness is so important. For me, it's like being totally honest to myself that when I notice before, most of my decision that I make in my life is because of fear, driven by fear and lack and scarcity. I need to get there because I won't get this or that. When your decisions or the way you express or move yourself is driven by lack and scarcity, there is this invisible boundary and limitation that you always put on yourself because you cannot go to certain way because you're afraid of something. Therefore, all your decision is governed by that place where, oh, I don't get this, therefore I have to get there. Therefore, I have this obligation, should, must.
That's tyranny.
Yeah.
That's tyranny of the shoulds.
Yeah, and then it's not outside that do that to you. You the one who doing it to you. You the one who limit yourself and put yourself in the cell, in the prison. At the end of the day, I think we need to take that ownership and responsibility that maybe the economy is difficult, getting a job difficult, paying a bill difficult, or like the price is all difficult. It's easy to create a story and blame the external to say that's difficult, therefore I don't get what I want. But we actually the one that make it difficult because we perceive it difficult. But it's all because the should, like you said. But imagine a child, right? When you are 3, 4, 5, there is no should in our being. It's just, I want this. Oh, that's fun. I want to go there. It's curiosity, exploration. And I think we lost that in this era with not having the sovereignty of self. We lost that power of bringing curiosity, playfulness, and the deep desire to want something that is beyond necessity. Because right now it's about necessity. I need to find a job because I need to pay a bill. I need to do this because there's like always this, I need this, therefore that. That's the cell or the limitation we put. We do this because we want to get that. But in sovereignty, there is a place where you do it for the sake of it. There's no transactional. It's just an expression of your love, of your joy, of your desire that comes from a deeper place, from the soul. Because the soul cannot be contained by limitation of your belief. It's between that belief that limit us and the soul who want to express itself. I think that's a struggle we have, each of us. So how can we know that we are in these bodies? We still need to eat. We still need to pay the bill. We still live in the system where it's transactional. But how, at the same time, we allow this soul who want to express its unique self in this world. For me, sovereignty also a responsibility of me in this body, in this limit of Christine living in Toronto with 2 kids and husband, and this is what I do, bill that I have to pay. At the same time, also holding a safe space for my soul to express to this body, to this limit. I think that's the beauty where if each of us can reclaim our sovereignty, it's a beautiful thing to live in this paradox of limitation and limitless, of fear and love. Because at the end of the day, all our experience, our struggle leads us to open up, to break free from the limitation that we put into ourselves.
Gosh, you said a lot of things there. I think as kids, I read some time ago that by the time they're at 7, they hear 80% more no's than yes. No, don't do that. No. And I get their prefrontal cortex isn't fully formed. They need boundaries and rules and all the rest of it. But There is something to be said for how children learn to lie. If a child in a situation says, "Oh, mum, that lady or that man is so fat," shh, don't say that. But the child is expressing what they see. At
Mm,
that point, they learn to shut down. Now, I know there's social politests and diplomacy, and it's a crude example, but that's how kids learn to lie because all of a sudden they can't be fully self expressed. They're not allowed to say that.
mm,
Okay, we're not going to walk around going, "Hey, you're fat." But
yeah.
there can be a different approach to that situation. When you're talking about blaming external circumstances like the economy or whatever it is, this is the distinction. It's where people are either in blame and avoidance or truth and responsibility. The thing about it is they live on the same line. Which camp do you want to be in? Do you want to be in blame and avoidance? You can hear the narrative when you listen to someone speaking, because it's like, oh, I can't do this because of the economy. I don't have enough money. And I am sympathetic to the fact that there are constraints on many people, but I have seen people who are brought up on council estates or what in New York they call the projects, who have emerged as amazing people, motivational speakers, people who've transcended because they haven't gone into blame and avoidance. They've taken up the mantle of truth and responsibility. So the question is, what does it mean to be truly free? Not just politically or socially, but deep within at the level of mind, spirit, and identity. Because I think sovereignty is a word that's been associated a lot with nations and kings and rulers. The highest and most essential form of sovereignty is the one we claim over ourselves. What if that person can reclaim their inner sovereignty, their inner throne? What if they could govern their mind and master their emotions and align their actions with their deepest values? What if their thoughts were no longer their enemy, but their greatest ally?
I love what you're saying. I want to break it down. In the beginning, you said sometimes we choose to be in victim mentalities with the narrative or take the responsibilities. And those happen is not out there. It's right there in your mind in every single moment. You can go here or there. I think that's a free will because at this time, hell and heaven is actually in this world, in us. We can jump so easily. The veil is so thin right now where we can go from one to another, like cloudy, gray weather to suddenly sunny because the clouds are disappearing. So it's happened first and foremost and in the mind where we can choose which one we want. The thing about the mind is the outside world can tell you, you cannot say this, you cannot read this book, you cannot be here, you cannot do this, but nobody can govern your mind except yourself. I've been thinking about writing this book about inner sovereignty and stopping the war within.
How are you
And what
getting
I
on with that?
what I found about it, and also what you're saying about quality of sovereignty, like making decisions, sitting on a throne in your own mind, in your reality, there's a couple things that we need to be aware of. Everything that happens, the visible and invisible. The visible is like you making an action, you see your body moving from one place to another, but there's the invisible that we need to reclaim to have our sovereignty is things that the being space, which is attention, intention, will, or willingness, and choices. Because your attention is this fabric that will affect your focus and your action. Where's your attention? Like you said about victim mentalities, blaming others or taking my own responsibilities. Is my attention out there or inside? Because attention would allow me to be self-aware. If I take a look and bring my attention inside, what is happening in me? And I really pay attention and notice and focus on that, I get more insights about my operation system. If I look outside and look at the deeper what's going on behind it, what's going on in me, that require attention. And attention is placed for self-awareness. I think it's a consciousness. The second one is intention, right? Intent, attend. You attending That's where attention comes from. You attending, you be with. And intent is from the inside out. From your intention, it becomes your expression. It becomes your choice of words you use, your choice of how you're showing up, your choice how you connect with others. It's through intention. What is your intent? Because our action is rendering of intent. The other part that I've been contemplating is the word will, right? Will without W is ill. I think most of us now is ill because we suppress our will. And will has a bad reputation in this era. The self-development, free will. You have to try hard. Put your will out there. Force it. Be will. That willing becomes a forceful thing because of the should. But willing or willingness is I am willing myself. In the willingness, there's a choice. Am I willing to do it? So things that I do, I need to ask myself, am I willing to do it? Even though it's hard. When I'm saying, yes, I'm willing to do it, it's coming from that sovereignty, from that choice. Sometimes when things get hard, we're like, oh my God, I have to do it. You do something because you're not willing to do it. And I think that's where the constraint is. We don't use our sovereignty. We don't use our focus. We don't use our intention. And again, at the end of the day, things that makes a lot of difference is in the field of consciousness. And all our awareness, self-awareness, intention, attention, willingness, it's all in consciousness field. So it's about time for us to return to the heart so we be able to see the invisible, the fabric that we are made of.
There's a lot in what you're saying. Attention to me is like the flashlight, whereas intention is the laser. When you marry those together, if you were to do what I would call mathematical vocabulary, in other words, intention plus attention, what does that equal? What I think you're talking about is defining the supreme authority of inner sovereignty. It's about having a complete internal governance mechanism where you have the ability to direct your psychological, emotional and behavioral responses and transcend reactive conditioning by being conscious of the choices that you're making. When you've cultivated the soil for supreme authority or inner sovereignty to take root, that means you become the governing force for your own life. Then you have the ability to govern your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and transcend conditioned reactions that arise from fear or past experiences or societal programming. We cultivate a conscious choice-making process that allows us to act with wisdom as distinct from reacting from impulse.
I love that. And I want to add with that wisdom, Peter, when you think about government, what we have right now, as an institution that we see everywhere in different countries, exists of so many different parts that govern and become a governed body. I like to bring the paradox because we are a unique soul. It's when I said I am a unique soul, it's one, right? But at the same time, I'm full of different parts. This is true because I have part of me who have a need to be in control. I have part of me that needs to have freedom and creativity. I have part of me who want to be secured, or a part of me who want to speak and share. So how do these parts become one that move together? When we make decisions, what I said about commitment, I'm going to do this even though there's a risk or it's hard, I commit. That means every part of me committing and working together towards something. What we have right now is wars. We push away part of us that we don't like. We shut it down. And when it needs help, let's say my creativity, great, I can explore. And suddenly I get confused because there are so many options. I need other part of me to come in and have a dialogue about practicality, about reasoning, so that my creativity that is so open, that is so wanting to explore everything, has some friend or a partner to co-create, right? I think that's our journey to gain our sovereignty. How can we make peace and collaborate with parts of us? Seems like the opposite of one another, right? What I found is very interesting. If we learn to have peace and work together with all parts of us, the impact is profound because we can go outside and understand that you and you are part of me too. How can I work with you? Because we all one. It's very interesting because what's up there is down there. I forgot
As
what it's
above,
called.
so below.
Yes, and we are fractal, right? It's me, but me also the world, and the world is also me, and the world is the universe. Understanding how works with the part as a sovereign one, the soul that uniquely want to express itself, allow us to do the same in our surrounding with the bigger parts.
We are a microcosm of the macrocosm. You are a miniature solar system with many
Yeah.
parts. I believe it's called internal family systems, where they talk to different parts because most of our parts are fragmented. What you're talking about is that internal governance mechanism. It's not about controlling others, as many governments do or attempt to do. It's about mastering the inner territory of our psyche. Why is it important? It prevents external manipulation. There's a fine line between manipulation and facilitation. You may think you're being facilitated by a government, but actually you're being manipulated in many ways. Those are unseen. This is where self-awareness comes in. This is where the importance of inner sovereignty is to embody and embrace authentic self-expression. That reduces psychological suffering. It increases personal agency and resilience. And it creates alignment between internal values and external actions. Why is this so important? Without inner sovereignty, we become vulnerable to external manipulation, whether it's from media, societal pressures, government, even personal relationships. We struggle to express ourselves authentically because we act according to external expectations rather than internal truth. We suffer psychologically because our sense of identity has become fragmented by forces beyond our control or outside of our control. So we lose agency and feel powerless to shape our lives. To live with sovereignty, we create an alignment between our internal values and external actions. And that means there's training involved here. There's metacognitive awareness training. There's psychological boundary establishment. There's emotional regulation techniques, ongoing self-reflection practices. There's challenging inherited belief systems. And I don't think this inner sovereignty, and you may disagree with me, but I don't think it's something we're necessarily born with. I think it's something we have to train. We have to develop like a muscle. As an example, if I'm thinking about awareness, metacognitive awareness training, I've got to learn and practice to observe my thoughts without immediate identification or reaction. If I'm looking at psychological boundaries as an example, I need to establish clear mental and emotional boundaries between myself and external influences. In terms of emotional regulation, I need to develop insights and techniques to manage emotions effectively without being ruled by them. There is continuous self-reflection, and what's very big is journaling, meditation, or therapy to gain deeper insight and challenge inherited beliefs. If we don't question the ideas absorbed from family, culture, and society, how do we start to redefine them?
Yeah, I'm bringing it in and allowing myself to percolate because there's a lot of things that you said. There's a couple of things that comes from listening to that. You talk about different techniques and tools. It's really practical. I want to bring something underlying it because at the end of the day, just be careful of trying to find different tools. We need a lot of tools, but sometimes as we're looking for the right tools, we're not using our sovereignty. There are many beautiful and effective methods out there, but one thing that is important is being aware of, oh, I need to unlearn. That's not my value, that's my parents' value, or that's society values. We need to, this is probably not a right word, but isolate ourselves. What I mean is maybe a metaphor of the Israel went to the desert for 40 years before going to the promised land. For me, those time is when I left my corporate career and finding path from my heart, because that place where we are alone, not lonely but alone, is necessary. That's where we can ask those questions. Is that really me? If that in my mind that I thought it's from my boss or my parents' voice, from the government, is that really them? Because when you're alone, was sometimes I felt and then anger and felt like, my manager, my boss trying to micromanage me, right? So it's like walk my path in my bubble. And I still got anxious and angry or frustrated because I'm like, what do I need to do today? I feel I'm not productive enough. I realize that's my voice, is not my boss. It's not somebody else. That is the most important part. And I think that's why things are breaking down. COVID allow us to be alone. And transformation happen through that time, because when you're alone, you ask those questions and nobody can answer it except you have to process it within yourself. That's one point of looking for tools, but first go inside and ask that questions. You need to process it yourself before you like try to find a solution. That's our fearful automatic reaction. What's the solution? This is the problem. We label the thing problem and we're like, what's the solution? Then we look around instead of, wait a minute, what do I feel at this moment? What parts of me that's speaking right now? What do they need? We never ask that questions, right? Secondly, you mentioned about alignment, and that word is really strong in me as I listen to you. I think sovereignty, if I can say it in a different metaphor or different way, it's also energy management. What I mean is alignment. We need to learn what it means to have coherent mind, coherent self, to be aligned with our purpose, to be aligned with who we are. Because alignment help you go through things in more smoothly and flowing, right? For example, if you have a yacht, you follow the wind and the speed of your boat when in alignment with the direction of the wind, basically your boat go faster. If you against it, you get slower, you have to struggle, you have to spend more energy in order to find those things that help you. That's why I wrote this book, The Heart Space. We need to learn to use our different capacities as human, not just our brain and reasoning, but also our intuition and capacity to sense and feel. You can reason after, oh yeah, I'm aligned with you, because my brain can create those argument that I'm in alignment. But alignment first comes can the feeling, you can sense it if you align, right? Any decisions, let's say, do I take this job or that job? Or do I marry this guy or not marry? You can sense it. I think developing the capacity to sense, to feel, are we in alignment? Are we in resonance? It's so crucial, because then we can move forward in everything gonna be more smooth. You're gonna be at ease. And it's important because right now the world, or at least where I grew up or my conditioning is, you gotta work hard to achieve what you want. But how about just tap into the wind, tap into the current of the river and flow and float with it? That's the Wu Wei things, like effortless. I'm in it right now and just beautiful. You look back, you're like, oh my God, I have done a lot, but I don't feel like doing so much. There's a benefits in that. And also about sovereignty, you said about muscles. I have this meditation and it's beautiful. And said the self-sovereignty comes because we come the one, the wholeness come into different soul. Like this little body called Christine, called Peter, because of it come with different perspective, different beings, and experience different thing. Those beings needs boundary that it's called Peter, that is called Christine. At the end, sovereignty can exist because we are here together. If you are all one in oneness, we don't need sovereignty. But sovereignty is there so we can relate, we can connect in a different way. The dynamic part of sovereignty is the idea of things happening outside inform us of our own value, of what matter to us, right? So what happened in your life even within your experience, train you to know who you are, to know and to exercise your sovereignty. We don't know what we want. We don't know who we are. I am Christine without you. You don't know who you are without your clients or your families. We need one another. At the end of the day, sovereignty that Peter and I was talking about is not about claiming or taking over power, but it's just knowing who you are so we can exercise that relationship, coherence, and will, and create our own experience with one another.
Beautifully said. Going back to tools, yes, tools are important, but like the tool shed analogy, whereby you have these tools in your shed, and when you need a tool, you go and get the tool, you pick it up, you use it, then you put it back and you forget about it. What we need are practices. Yes, tools are valuable, so the mechanic needs the tools to do what they need to do. But the practices is where you start to tend to your inner garden. And we have to shift our cultural lens, because there are three parts. There is the expendable part of the human, there is the maintenance part, and there is the custodial part. The expendable part, you get up first thing in the morning, you may go for a pee, you're going to expend what you don't need, what the body needs to get rid of. That's the expendable part. Then you've got maintenance. You've got to maintain the body. You've got to eat. So we've got to maintain ourselves. There is the custodial part. What do we want to be custodial to? Do we want to be custodial to our inner sovereignty, or do we seek the safety nest of external validation to help form what we believe is our identity? This is important because when we learn about something, if you align to that learning, it becomes part of your basic constitution. As an example, the guitarist who can just run his fingers up and down the frets, how does he do that? He has a practice. He's consistent with that practice. It becomes part of him. It's part of his basic constitution. It's not the expendable Ray, it's the custodial part of him, because he's learnt it, he's aligned to it. Now it's part of him. He's embodied it. He's embraced it. Now he can enact and extend it. I see for you, in what you're saying, with Wu Wei, you've moved from pathology to process. That's beautiful when you do that. You can also move from a quick fix to a deeper transformation. You can move from comfort to capacity. You can move from avoidance to engagement, from surface to depth, from solution to journey. We have to be able to not just learn it, we have to align to it. You can see this if somebody learns a language. They learn sentence structure, verbs, all these different things about a language, but then they have to align to it. So they go and speak it. They might go and live in the country. It becomes part of their basic constitution. They don't have to really think about it when they speak it. They've embodied it. They've embraced it. They are custodial to it. When we see the value of the choices we make about what do we want to be custodial to, and we shift that cultural lens, we can start to see the value of the work of inner sovereignty.
Exercising sovereignty allow you to be aligned with your becoming. It's a process of becoming, like you said, about learning, opening up and learning. It become you. And it's a process of becoming that require us to be open. And I hope in this era of uncertainty, we can all access that. At the end of the day, all the tools you need for sovereignty, you already have. It's inherent in each of us.
This is where I see self-awareness is so important. When we have conscious recognition of our internal states and we understand our psychological mechanisms, we observe thought, we observe emotional patterns, we identify unconscious conditioning, then self-awareness becomes the foundation of sovereignty. We recognize our internal states and patterns. If we can understand the mechanisms that drive us, that can lead us to identifying automatic conditioning that has shaped our behaviors.
I wish we can speak longer. This is such a beautiful conversation.